Hi, I'm Pia Morato, and my program is Education Radio, aired every Saturday from 8 to 9 in the morning on RadyoBandi.tv, simulcast on DZRJ 8:10 a.m., on Sky Cable Channel 224, TV Plus boxes, and on free-to-air TV, Facebook.com, DZRJ 8:10 a.m., and our official YouTube channel. Don't forget to watch Education Radio every Saturday, where we take the streets into the classroom and the classroom to the streets.
Good morning. Good morning, Manila. Good morning, Philippines. Good morning, world, and welcome to another episode of Education Radio with 𝗘𝗱𝗂𝗰𝘁𝗶𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂. Welcome again, sir.
Good morning, Pia. How are you doing?
I'm good. I did a lot of research, but on our topic today,
Okay.
like a student, your student, but I'm not so sure if I'm really getting it right. So I'm going to need your wisdom as usual, because today's topic is nationalist economics.
Right.
And of course, we'll need your wisdom there, like I said, sir, for all of us to further understand this and the relevance of it all in our nation. But maybe I can begin by giving a definition.
Sige.
Okay, so the Cambridge Dictionary defines nationalist economics as a situation in which a country tries to protect its own economy by reducing the number of imports and investments from the other countries. If I'm on the right track, sir, it also says in the definition underneath that the United States was actually seen as the main opponent of protectionism and economic nationalism. Not my words, but in the dictionary, that's at least what I saw. So beginning with that definition, your insights, sir.
Sige. Well, thank you so much for using that. No? The key phrase, I think, in the definition is that a nationalist economy is when a nation protects its national interests by reducing imports and investments. Okay? Ano yun? Tama yun in the sense of nationalist, yung protectionism, no? It's basically protectionism. Now, maybe what I'd like to approach, the way I'd like to approach is this. My position is that I'm not anti-importation and I'm not anti-investments. Pero dapat nasa lugar.
Yeah.
Nasa lugar. Kasi ang talagang tinutulak, lalo na, I'm glad that you pointed it out, yung for example, I'm sure you're familiar with the Philippine Development Plan, no?
Yes.
With the Philippine Development Plan, yung may bago na yun, 2023 to 2028. I think this is going to be the ninth development plan, starting from the Marcos Sr. Starting from Marcos Sr. Ngayon, yun na lagi natin iniisip na magiging the driver for progress natin. Ngayon, kung titignan kasi natin, ang laging tinutulak dyan is tinatawag nila na free market reforms. You know, it's very interesting that term, Pia, when you talk about free market reform, ano ibig sabihin ng free market? Basically, sabi ng gano'n, negosyo na hindi pinakikialaman ng Estado. Free from government intervention. Which is, ang paniwala kasi is that kung yun ang gagawin natin, hindi uunlad lahat kasi hindi pinakikialaman, blah, 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 blah. Well, there are reasons both coming and going, kung bakit may ganon. Pero kasi ang iniisip ng tao na basically kasi ito is pushed by what you call yung the neoliberal school. At neoliberal school is basically na yun, no intervention from government, basta negosyo lang, tapos reduce natin ang taxation ng mga malalaking mga kumpanya, so forth and so on. Pero ang nangyari kasi, siyempre at the end of the day, iisipin mo, Sige, kung paunlarin natin. And that has been, by the way, yung free market approach has been with us for the past, like I said kanina, nine administrations already.
Yeah.
Pero kung titingnan mo actually, no, kahit na lumalaki supposed to be yung tawag ng GDP, yung general picture, pero andyan pa rin yung kahirapan.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, bakit naghihirap pa rin ng tao? Bakit? For example, may gutom. Bakit ganun kamahal ang sibuyas?
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Nagtataka nga ako, Pia, ba hindi ka gumagamit ng hikaw na sibuyas?
No. Diba? Hindi pa muna. Pero believe it or not, naregalohan ako ng sibuyas. Just recently, I was like, wow.
May sense of humor yung nagbigay sa'yo.
Yeah.
Pero going back, while it's the reason why maybe the term I would go for more would be a more inclusive economy, a more patriotic economy, an economy wherein yung gobyerno hindi nakikialam in terms of sobrang overregulation. Pero may pwede natin mapag-usapan mamaya yan. Kasi yung pakikialam ng gobyerno, for example, may kasi dyan, may nakatagong elemento na kung saan may mga taong kumikita based on those interventions. Ang tawag nga nun, rent seeking. Yung kumukuha ng arkila, tapos na yung building, pero kumukuha pa rin sila. Yeah. So anyway, going back, ang natin talaga, is kung pwede, ma-reduce natin yung agwat. If we can reduce the gap between the extreme rich and the numerous poor. I mean, for example, this is just an example, Pia. On TikTok, you see some women, some Filipino socialites, talk about 500,000 or more than ₱1 million worth of bags. I'm sure you're familiar with those bags.
Yes. I don't buy those bags, though.
No, but what I'm saying is that parang hindi makatarungan.
Yes.
Parang hindi makatarungan. I mean, we don't, fine.
You don't want to judge. Yeah.
Yeah, we have those bags. Pero habang ang daming gutom, and bakit ganon? How come some people can afford it? Well, is it because they're more hardworking? I don't think so. Have you ever seen people in the farm work? They work so hard. Yeah. Sunog na nga yung mga mukha eh. Pero they don't earn. So it's not a question of hardworking. Maybe some people are just smarter. Smarter in the sense of they know how to go around. So basically that. So when I say nationally, I don't mean it in the negative sense. I mean it in a patriotic sense where if we could actually increase production of agriculture and industry so that, kasi yun ang pinakamalaking labor markets natin eh. Kasi sabi nga ng ADB, ang cost ng kahirapan talaga sa Pilipinas is because wala masyadong ang tawag dito, wala masyadong opportunity for employment. So that needs to be addressed. So kung pwede yung yung pagyaman ng bayan, quote unquote, should be more inclusive, and that's what I mean by quote unquote nationalist.
Yes, I get that. And I think my research is on the right track.
Okay.
Okay, because there's also a study from Durham University that I came across, and it's the School of Government and International Affairs. And they say that economic nationalism should be understood as a set of practices to create, to bolster, and protect national economies in the context of world markets, right? So you're saying, kasi sir, earlier, like what you said, we're not pro or against, but I guess what you mean is that we need to find a balance. Is that correct?
And also, like right now, while people seem to say we shouldn't be protectionist, actually, America is the most protectionist.
Yeah, that's right.
The many Western some leading Western countries are very, very protectionist. Like, for example, ang taas ng taripa nila sa certain items. So, actually, right now, especially now, because of the way the global markets are actually slowing down,
Right.
Nag-slow down, wala na yung kanilang pinaka-major source of manufacturing, so humihina. So dapat tama ka, ang emphasis nung Durham, the University of Durham is yeah, we strike a balance, but what I would like to actually I'd like to bring it further. Not so much strike a balance, but to actually, for the government not to intervene, but to actually engage to initiate projects that would eventually, to initiate projects that would actually help certain sectors.
Yeah.
For example, let me just say, Pia, hindi naman siya intervention, but for example, if government government in Erie, right? Yung sa UP, yung Rice Institute,
Yeah.
gobyerno yun di ba? Hindi naman siya intervention, di ba? But it was actually research. Ngayon, nung namunga yung research nila, guess kung sinong kumita? Hindi Pilipinas, Thailand. Thailand ang kumuha ng ating, hindi naman kinuha nila, pero they acted on our research.
Yeah.
So if the Philippine government can initiate more research and development, yung startup ba, yung pasimula, kasi ang negosyo ng mga negosyante, hindi sila mag-i-invest dun sa yung kailangan pa silang gumasto, baka matalo, baka malugi, ganun. Pero ang government can do that. We can actually do research, which, for example, bakit Marcos Senior Administration, actually may mga advances, no? Alam mo, during that particular time, for example, the goals that they set for the old man Marcos, the goals he set for agriculture was 25% of GDP. Ang laki, di ba? Parang that would be a fourth of. Pero ngayon, alam mo, bumaba 6% or something like that. Yeah. And ang tendency kasi is, kasi kung anong tawag nito, kung nag-emphasize tayo in agriculture, big sabihin, bubuhos natin ang resources natin doon. Bubuhos natin ang resources natin doon. Pero, meron yung tinatawag yung World Bank, IMF. Ito medyo complicated ng konti. Pero, yung tinatawag na structural adjustments, na kung saan, parang dinidiskurahe tayo na mag-invest sa agrikultura. Kasi sinasabi na meron namang ibang bayan diyan na mas magaling sa sa agriculture kaysa sa inyo. Well, yan ang reasoning. So sabi lang, kumbaga, again, balikan ko, dito na lang kasi may nadiskubrihan sila na talento daw, magaling daw ang Pilipino sa services. So kumbaga, saan nanggagaling yung mga tao for services? Di galing sa mga kung successful tayo agriculture, di walang pupunta sa urban area para mag-services. So ang ginawa, parang benign, parang neglect. They neglect, by neglecting investing in agriculture, they get the resources of people, basically cheap labor. Napupunta dito sa so doon tayo magalingin sa serbisyo. Alam mo naman ng Pilipino, napaka, maserbisyo, maganon-ganon. So, yun na kumbaga na tinawag nila the revealed comparative advantage. So, kumbaga, bakit hindi ginawa? Kasi may pa in the back of the mind, baka mas kikita tayo rito. Mas kikita tayo sa area na ito. So, it's, in a sense, it's an intentional neglect.
Okay. A wrong investment and an intentional neglect, would you say?
Well, okay, very well put, Pia.
I said it too. I said it. But then, sir, our lessons from COVID-19, for example, in the European governments, I also read that they implemented their own measures to protect their domestic industries.
Correct.
Right? And I mean, because there was this crisis, the unknown, uncertainty,
Correct.
And that's where they focused. I would say that we were doing that in the time of President Duterte also, we were trying to do that more, you know, focusing on ourselves. But there's this misconception sometimes that when we say buy local, for example, it's considered as an initiative for economic nationalism, which, if I am understanding correctly, that's not the only way, right? Like, we can focus on really bolstering our local economy, but at the same time, again, it goes back to a balance where you know, we can look to the others, I guess, for mutual cooperation, but by putting ourselves also first. It's just like your example with UP and rice, diba? Why is it that instead of the Philippines taking credit, if we can say credit for it, another country did? So it seems to me like it falls on our part, as a fault. You know, it's our fault on our part. Would you agree with
just
that?
going back, Thailand did not so much take credit as took advantage.
Okay, isn't that even
Took
worse?
advantage. Tayo yung hindi nag-take advantage. For some reason, we kept neglecting it.
Yeah.
We kept neglecting kasi nga, we were tending more towards towards free market, foreign direct. I'm not against foreign direct investments, but kumbaga, nangyayari, imbis na, for example, going back, hindi naman siguro protectionism na, let's say, i-boost natin ang agriculture natin. Kasi nga, kunya, katulad during the pandemic, kung hindi na tayo pinagbilan ng Thailand tsaka Vietnam ng palay, ng bigas, di saan tayo kukuha? Hindi ba?
Yeah.
Hindi ba? So, it's more of a pragmatic move. It's not even ideological. Hindi ito kaliwa, kanan.
Yeah.
It's just being pragmatic. It's just being it's just being practical. So, kumbaga, you're a mom, right?
Yes.
My golly, I'm sure yes, you have this job here, but you have actually a job at home. You take care of your household, right?
Yes.
Oh, bago ka lumabas dito sa Radyo Bandido, I'm sure inisip mo na, may pagkain ba sa bahay? Nakapaglinis ba? Nakapaglaba ba? Sinong mamimili? So, kumbaga, these are all household things actually. Household management. You don't invest. For example, ito you're a smart woman, blah, blah, blah. But if you spent, let's say, uy, wala akong bagong damit ngayon. Kailangan kong bumili ng ganito. And so you buy a 4,000 peso t-shirt. I mean, ilang sibuyas ang mabibili?
Yeah. Like, actually, like, even at the moment, as we speak, like, I woke up so early because like, we have this place, you know, our family, and I'm trying to, like, get my children involved and saying, you know, we have to learn how to grow our own crops. And I went out there early and I said, my gosh, this is a different life, you know. It's difficult and but we gotta learn, because, you know, I find it so, I don't know if the right word is unreasonable, or I can't put it together. Like, I find it illogical that there are people out there who know how to do it. They can't help themselves. Let's say the local farmers or the ones that are selling, you know, their catch of the day so early in the morning, and we don't know how to do it. They do, but we're like the buyers, right? And the thing is, people like us over here, you know, we're saying that we need to teach them where to go and how to fish properly. So we have that stock knowledge, but we don't go to where they go, right? So here I am attempting with you know, my family to go where they go so that we can apply this together. And that's how I see it. Like, because if I'm going to compare it to what I've seen in Europe, I saw them do that. Like, if we're going to focus locally, for example, preserve our local economy, they were doing it together, like as a family, right? generations of families trying to put themselves back together because they felt like they've been like the younger children or the grandchildren. They felt like they've been away for too long and focused globally, right? And they needed to come back home and, you know, restart what they already have. Would you think that that's the best way?
Yeah, I mean, basically, if I look at what you're sharing, ang sinasabi mo is that let's do it together.
Yeah.
Let's do it together. Okay, in your case, let's do it as a family. Pero that's exactly also from the macro level. Let's do it together. Mahirap naman yung isa pakabig, tapos yung isa gutom. Alam mo yun?
Yeah. Yes.
Hindi ba? So ito yung inaano nga natin, kung pwede, babalikan natin. Andyan yung gobyerno, andyan yung mga negosyante, pero dapat kasama ang tao.
Yeah.
Yung
That's
kasama
the gap.
Pati isa pa, hindi naman, alam mo, development is not one size fits all. Hindi naman, you know, may iba-ibang like for example, iba-ibang emphasis, iba-ibang kung saan sila talaga. Like for example, some farming communities, they already need post-harvest and stuff like that. In fact, during the campaign, Pia, we were talking about yung prototypes, yung models, for example, sa rice. Kung pwede talaga, alam mo, syempre, farmers find it difficult because they have to borrow the money, they have to borrow this, you have to borrow that, they have to borrow. Pero tapos isa pa, aniliit pa nung mga, I think 1 hectare each, 1 to 5 hectares yata yung pwede nilang isaka. Pero alam mo, technically, to be profitable, you should have at least 25 hectares.
Yeah.
Hindi ba? So kung pwede sana, may adjustment dyan. Kung pwede structural adjustment, tapos kung not only, o kaya mag-cooperate yung mga tao that they form. Kasi pwede na, basta may suporta galing sa gobyerno. Hindi siya intervention. Intervention in the sense of support. Pero also, it's dapat kasi may 2 sectors talaga dapat kailangan ng ekonomiya natin na dapat may assistance, may tulong, may talagang ayuda, hindi yung ayuda na help. Yung kumbaga yung, for example, mga initial research technology and yung kumbaga support, that's agriculture and manufacturing. Hindi lang yung kasi yung somebody said nga yung ating mga no offense meant to yung ating economic policies tend to parang laos na hindi sumasabay sa panahon. Yung hindi nasabay sa panahon. Nagbabago nga mabilis nga magbago. So kumbaga, pero it begins really with the pananaw. And this is where the nationalist aspect comes in. Let me read to you, Pia, from the preamble of the 87 Constitution.
Yeah.
So sabi ganon, we the sovereign Filipino people, imploring the aid of the Almighty God. Alam mo, Filipino talaga maka-Diyos no?
Yeah.
In order to build a just and humane society. Kumbaga, hinahanap natin na makatarungan at makataong bayan, no? And establish a government that shall embody our ideals and aspirations. Ano ba yung mga ideal and aspirations natin? Komportableng buhay para sa lahat. Lahat makakain. Kumbaga, dito nga mag-party ka lang pati kapitbahay mo padadala mo ng pagkain I mean, hindi ba sali lahat tapos promote the common good, you know, and then conserve and develop our patrimony, yung ating mga ari-ari, yung ating that which belongs to us. But basically, this is I think what we've neglected is the common good. Hindi ibig sabihin na kung magtumulong ka sa iba, komunista ka or anything like that. No. Pero there should be hindi lang, kumbaga, hindi pabor sa isang sector lang, kundi sa lahat. Kumbaga, isipin natin, katulad nung yung mga, basta, kumbaga, yung natin, yung mga pulisiya natin, hindi lang basta tumaas yung GDP. Hindi lang basta tumaas yung GDP, kundi to make sure na una nakakain ng mga bata, malusog ang matatanda, inalaga, nakakapag-aral yung mga anak natin, Pati matino yung pag-aaral. Alam mo, isang maganda na pinopropose, somebody was proposing, one of the Congress people, yung Meister schools, they call it, yung where they develop master craftsmen.
Yeah.
You know, kasama ito sa education, you know.
Yeah.
Pero kung pwede ganun, kumbaga, yung somebody call there's an economist, her name is Mariana Mazzucato. She talks about the state being an entrepreneurial state. Kumbaga, katulad ba ng Japan? Ang Japan, they call it Japan Incorporated.
Yes.
Kasi ang kanila talaga, kumita tayo, dapat umusad tayo, umunlad tayo, para ang lahat maayos ang buhay. Yun, sumada.
Okay, so in France, for example, Emmanuel Macron, he was like labeled as a nationalist for suggesting at some point that French supermarkets sell only local produce. Right? And while I think like selling local produce should come first, right? Why did this become a problem? And what's the lesson we can learn from that? Again, it's like a balance, right? Because even in the US, the liberal observers, for one, saw the similarities to the Trump style of economic nationalism of the years that canceled free trade agreements, right? So there's something here that, kasi we know naman, sir, that the World Trade Organization, they're the guys that moderate all these things, right? So how do we balance this? And then we're talking about the smaller guys. These guys, you know, that come to you with fish so that they can go and buy something to eat, diba? For their own families, right? That won't just last them for one meal, but let's say for the rest of the weekend, right? How do you bring it down even to that level? You have the world trade and then you have these smaller guys.
Correct. So think global but act local. Yan ang lagi sinasabi, okay? But on the other hand, katulad ng tinanong mo, dapat number one, Filipino products ang pinibenta. We don't have Filipino products. May mantika, may chips siguro, itos gawa pa sa labas yan, hindi ba? Pero actually kasi wala tayong ganong klaseng manufacturing. Pero in terms of, for example, in terms of yung mga local fishermen and all that, you know what could be done? For example, unang-una kung pwede bilhin na ng gobyerno. Para meron, you know, wag na sila maghanap ng market nila. Kung pwede bilhin na lahat ng kita nila, tapos ang gobyerno buys it and then, you know, make sure that it's properly sold at the right places, at the right markets. Kung baka makisama tayo. Kumbaga, bakit pahihirapan natin yung artisanal fishermen? Yung pailan-ilan lang yung kinukuha nila, hindi ba bilhin na natin lahat yan? Kasi ang dami namang ang dami mga assured markets actually. I mean, for example, may restaurant. Actually nga ibang bayan na nga ang kumukuha ng mga gandang isda natin eh. Hindi
nga, sir. Di ba? Parang
so, kung pwede, for example, i-assure na yung gobyerno, i-assure na yung, dapat may bumibili na yung binibili na ng ating gobyerno. Yung, for example, kita nila yung isda nila, yun ang paraan natin. Kumbaga, imbis na ayuda, bilhin na natin.
Right.
Bilhin na natin. Yan ang kumbaga, support natin sa kanila. And make sure that it's sold properly. Like, ganon. Tapos, otherwise, hindi mabenta, pwede naman i-develop into, for example, yung mga canned mackerel, canned this, canned that. In other words, it's a whole chain already.
Yes.
If we develop a whole chain to do that, that would really be, okay.
And we haven't done that. We haven't developed the chain. I think that's the missing.
Correct. And we should, that's what I was saying. But if we can do a more patriotic economy, if we have a vision for the common good, let's make sure that all these people are gainfully employed. For example, yung mga anak nila, in the beginning, una makapag-aral, tapos pangalawa, baka pwede na silang magiging ma-employ sila, tapos yung mga ano, then we can, kung iba, so maybe some of the farmers' kids or fisher folks' kids will say, yung makikita by testing, ang linya naman pala yata talaga niya is he's more geared towards the academic. I-develop din natin sila ganun. But those who are geared towards the skills, the vocation, pero mga master schools, Meister schools they call. So this is what, kumbaga, if the government can build the right infrastructure and with the right, but in conversation, tama yung sinasabi mo kanina, yung pamilya mo kasama. Dapat tatlo, gobyerno, private sector, tsaka civil society, nag-uusap. Sasabihin nila, ito yung talagang kailangan namin. Ito yung tapos, hindi naman redistribute, matatakot sila, o baka naman i-distribute na, kunin yung yaman natin. No. Ang hanap lang tayo ng equal opportunity tsaka equal access. Access.
Yeah, because there's such a thing as the blue economy, right? And if you talk about the blue economy, for example, that's part of tourism.
Correct.
So maybe our tourism industry can also be very helpful here.
Correct.
Right.
The other one, for example, alam mo yung mga galing, alam mo yung, what do you call it? Filipino herbal medicines?
Yeah, they're so good.
Hindi ba? Like, for example, honestly, I take, there's this, those mangosteens.
Yeah. Yes, I
the
take those too.
Caps. There's those things are excellent. And one of the things that are really improving right now is called, that's booming right now is what is called medical tourism. Pero maybe we could develop health tourism.
Right.
Health tourism. We could have, for example, farms of these herbs, and then may spa, and then they can buy and then kumbaga we promote it.
Yeah.
We develop what we have, among other things,
Yes, and the thing is, like, sometimes we don't know what to do. Like, for example, virgin coconut oil. That's all I use actually for my skin and everything. It's so cheap, sir. It's like 100-something pesos only, right? In the supermarket. It makes you think like it's good for everything. Like whether you take it or put it on you, it's like good for everything.
Regarding VCO, I'll share with you one thing.
Yeah.
I talked to a Philippine Airlines pilot, senior na siya. In fact, he's in government. He said, do you know that PAL pilots take VCO regularly, especially towards meron pala yan silang annual checkup.
Yeah.
To lower their cholesterol.
Yeah.
They actually take VCO. I mean, instead of taking all those statins, whatever.
Statins and everything. Yeah, I do.
It should damage your.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do the same, right? So would you think, sir, economic tourism is the antithesis, as some say, some research say, to economic liberalism?
I would say we have a whole menu. We can have a whole menu we can have a whole menu of what we can actually do. We don't have to, for example, when you say economic liberalism, you're saying for example, RCEP. Are you talking about that?
Better then, sir. Maybe it can be applied to the RCEP, right?
Like for example, ang sinasabi kasi na ito, let me just go back. Sinasabi na in one editorial coming out of one very respected newspaper, sabi niya, hindi tayo dapat nasabi niya, alam mo matagal nang sira yung ating agriculture, tsaka you cannot damage it further. Sabi, I thought that was so maybe it was, they were trying to be very sophisticated pero para sa akin, sabi ko, napaka-negative naman nun. Pero kung talaga it's broken. Why is it broken? Because intentionally, because of bad policy from way back. And it goes back to 4 decades na. 4 or 5 decades. So does that mean to say because it's broken, we just leave it? Tapon na natin, it's a puwera na. Hindi. Para sa akin, we actually need what somebody called it, have a mission economy. Intentionally, let us repair.
Yeah.
Let us do something about it. Sabi niya, this particular economist I mentioned earlier, si Matsukato, sabi niya, if we were able to put people on the moon, a man on the moon, certainly we can do something about agriculture here, about the economy here. So if we could, kung pwede lang, magkaroon ng, ito yung doon pumapasok, if we could have a more patriotic leadership, if we could have more patriotic government leaders, if we could have more patriotic business people, if we could have, tapos mag-usap at makinig sa isa't isa, we could actually repair. And economic health tourism would be one. There are many things. We could actually do. For example, ang dami ko nakikita ngayon yung bagong, what do you call it? Yung kino-construct na mga bagong bahay, typhoon-proof, very resilient housing, very resilient. So ang ano ko dyan is, kailangan lang kasi mag-usap at makinig. And then, kasi economics nga, kukunti ang pera natin. Hanapin natin kung saan natin pwede ma-invest ang ating kukunting pera so that umunlad at umusad. But the other thing, Pia, how can we pass this on? Alam mo, for example, maybe we really need a change of government structure.
I think so.
Like for example, kung may magandang idea isang presidente, after 6 years, wala na.
Oo nga eh.
So kung pwede sana, tapos kung naman, sabi nga, 6 years is either too short or too long. But apparently, it looks like it's really high time that we change our government structure. Maybe that's one other thing. So it's a whole menu of that we can do. If we can change, then we can have sustained change. And one last thing, pala, Pia. Ang dami ko dinadagdag.
Hey, go for it, sir.
Alam mo, if we have, let's say, if we can, we need to upgrade our civil service.
Oh, yes. I like that you mentioned this. Yes.
If we could attract, alam mo, if we can upgrade that, if we try to get the best and the brightest, Singapore pays, may mga top salaries sila, $1 million a year.
Yeah. Yeah, sir. I mean, really, that's something that I have been hoping for many years, but it hasn't been done.
Pero kaakibat siya na that goes along with maybe structural change, government system change, maybe shift to parliament. Not maybe, but that seems to be the and then so that we can have a strong bureaucracy. Hindi yung alam mo kasi nangyayari dito, Pia, I'm sure you're familiar with this. When you entered government, saan yung dating papeles? Wala.
Wala na.
Wala. No, dapat wala. Dapat andyan yan. So you don't have to, what happens to us is you keep reinventing every 6 years. But if we're the parliament, no, dire-diretso yan. Dire-diretso.
Yeah. That's how I agree with you. That's how it should be. So, sir, considering like this whole concept of free trade and all that, it actually started after World War II, right? Why? What happened? And like, how do we now correct this, for lack of a better term? Like, how do we make the changes? Because there are discouraging aspects, there are political aspects. It's rather difficult, and for the smaller people to understand this, they just feel like they are like collateral damage, maybe. That I don't know how to say it, but that's the impact on them. That's without really using that word. That's how they feel if you talk to the people on the ground. Na kami yung in between all of this.
Correct. Going back, I tend to be historical in perspective.
Yeah. Well, we have to go back to history, really, because that's the only way. That's our basis.
Alam mo yung free market na style, hindi ba kasi actually ang ginawa natin, di ba? Nung nalibre tayo from Spain sana, nasakmal ulit tayo ng Amerikano, kinuha nila tayo. At ang inimpose nila sa atin ng public education system tsaka yung kanilang form of government. Actually, imperfect nga yung version. Pero may nakuha kasi tayo sa kanila eh. Yung counterbalance supposed to be ang executive, legislative, ano. Kumbaga, we can checkmate each other, ano.
Yeah.
Ngayon, ang ginawa ng ano naman, Amerikano, pag alis nila kasi dito, they wanted parity rights. They wanted, kahit na umalis na sila rito, they wanted equal rights for Americans, equal economic rights. So, in-emphasize nila yung free market. Free market means basically free from government control. Kumbaga, negosyo lang. So, kumbaga, na plano nila na pabor sa kanila. I mean, no offense, man. Kwento-kwento lang. I mean, hindi to kwento kutsero. Just telling the truth. So, yan ang nangyari. Ngayon, how do we address? Ito nga sinasabi ko, we can correct it. We can actually do. Pero dapat, dapat mahabang kwentuhan yan. So, in the meantime, I think I always go by the two-track solution. We have to live by what we have at this stage while planning our next move, for example, to change, to shift. But in the meantime also dapat, while tinutuloy natin ito rito so that maintain, and then pwede tayo magplano. Pwede tayong magplano na, para example, mag-shift tayo, mag-change tayo. Para at a certain stage, pwede nang i-dispense ito. Pasok na tayo dito sa plano natin. How do we correct free? Alam mo, isipin mo, you have to compare the two. Which is better? A controlled economy or a free enterprise economy? Actually, hindi mo masabi. Kasi ang US, free enterprise, ang laki talaga ng kanilang ekonomiya. But on the other hand, hindi mo naman pwedeng i-chapwera ang China, which is a controlled economy. Naging number 2 sila in about less than 50 years. So in other words, pwede. Mm-hmm. Ang sinasabi ko is, pwede siguro tayo maghanap ng middle ground.
Yeah.
Yung middle ground na yan, yun ang tinatawag na, kumbaga, ito yung usap ng tatlo, gobyerno, negosyo, tsaka tao. If we can agree, for example, sabihin, wag naman yung sabihin na kasi alam mo, bakit mahirap ang Pilipinas? Kasi wala ng trabaho. Bakit trabaho? Bakit hindi lang pwede? Kasi, ang nangyari, hindi na nga tayo agrarian economy supposed to be. Pero the biggest sector pa rin are two. The biggest sectors for employment are agriculture and industry. Mm-hmm. And ini-neglect. Tapos sasabihin pa nila ngayon mag-import na lang tayo. Yung we'll just allow, kumbaga we just become part of the global chain. Magkumuha tayo ng mga foreign direct investors. Ano yung mga foreign direct investors na yan? Alam mo, pagpasok ng foreign direct investments na yan, hindi naman sila maghanap dito ako sa Pilipinas dahil ang taas ng sweldo. Hindi hanapin ng pinakamababa.
Mababa, right.
Pinakamababa.
Yeah.
So, dapat, ang ko dyan is, i-improve natin, kung pwede, we just have to distract. Dapat tutukan ng gobyerno ang both development of local industries. Basically, it should be from my perspective, konektado sa agriculture. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Konektado sa agriculture, food processing, katulad ng paggawa ng bangka, paggawa ng barko, kumbaga yung mga refrigeration services, kumbaga doon natin i-emphasize para magkaroon tayo ng bigger employment. In the meantime, marami pagkain.
Yes.
Hindi tayo umaan. Huwag hindi tayo umaan. I think it's a little bit ridiculous really that we should be complaining about, what do you call it, about onions,
Yeah.
Because you can grow onions. I can grow onions outside.
Yeah. See, that's the plan, right? Let's just grow them.
We can. Yung household gardening pwede. But pero if you want to employ more people, first, number one, we should enlarge we should push through with land reform and enlarge the portions that people can have, and then we can have cooperative working, and then bigyan natin sila ng mga post-harvest facilities, yung harvest, yung mga planting, yung irrigation, blah 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 blah. So kumbaga, boost agriculture so that it can employ more people. Second, build industries. I would suggest around agriculture.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm.
See, you're giving me ideas on what I can do here, you know. Have to prove something to my father that I have that I can get it done. Yeah. No, yeah, because I asked for it. I said I want to do this and I'm going to do this now, right? So, you know, I hope that I can really succeed, because I'm thinking like in your area, you always wonder like why is it still developing? And then in my case, for example, we have donated this and that. And it's a very welcoming thing, right? For the local government, for example, and the people there. They really want it. But I feel like there needs to be something sustainable. Like what you're saying, where the children can go to school, eat well, the elderly are healthy, right? Parents are also healthy and capable of taking care of their children. And of course, the children evolve to being better versions of their parents and bringing in, let's say, better practices that will again give back to the communities that they belong to. Instead, sir, of leaving it and going again to Metro Manila and trying to find something for themselves. Because that has been the long-running solution for everybody, for every generation. It's been generational already, right? So I guess, yes, tourism is one way, but also education, because you keep mentioning, sir, research and development. Are we lazy ba to,
No.
to do research and development, sir? I mean, no, we're not. I mean, we're not, right? So yeah, then we need to capitalize on more of it, I guess, for the locals. That's how, kasi sir, I saw, in my opinion lang, I saw it in the time of President Duterte, because I will admit that before him, I felt like I was too much of a globalist. I was talking so much about like the global economy and all that. And then here comes this surprise, President Duterte. And I saw the value of really growing our economy in itself was growing. And I said, it was felt. And yes, you know, I love these plans that are happening right now, because we need to really continue it, because every problem seems to be generational already. And it comes from, in my point of view also, a lot of it comes from education. They feel like there's no hope anyway here where I'm from, in this small town. I'm going to just finish my basic education and move forward with no skill, right? And they end up finding jobs in Metro Manila. They're like dishwashers and all that. That parang sa akin, di naman ang Pilipino is more naman than that then, right? Tapos pag kinakausap mo sila, sir, they'll tell you, alam mo sa amin, meron kaming lupa, marami kang ganyan, ganyan. Parang nanghihinayang ka din, right? As a fellow citizen. That's just my point, my point of view. And when it comes to like trade and global, looking at things globally, sometimes when we focus internally, it's a threat. It could be a threat to other countries, maybe. Again, going back to the Cambridge definition, is it like, you know, the US again being the main opponent of protectionism and economic nationalism? Does it have to be that way, sir? Can there be like an understanding between countries that we have to do this because other countries did when they found themselves in a crisis like COVID-19?
Yes, what did you say? Siguro, like, for example, when we talk about a nation like the US, we're not against the people, no?
Yeah.
The US per se, the Americans per se, in general, are likable, you know, very...
Yeah, pretty smart people too.
Correct. And one of the things that have that one of the things that works for them is because of grabe yung liberalism sa kanila. You can do what you want, you can be who you want. It has its own extremes, of course. Pero like for example, yung mga policy nila, you have to understand, like for example, may mga yung kanilang kasi yung anong tawag nito, yung kung yung mga tao lang, wala silang problema siguro, no? Pero yung pagpapatakbo ng bayan at saka yung habang may mga tao na habang umaangat as they progress, they also begin to see opportunities. Opportunities, and besides, especially if they find themselves in positions of power, they realize that there are some activities that generate more money. For example, bakit ba biglang talagang bumulusok ang US after the war?
Yes.
Because, for example, they had certain inventions, including the internet. The internet was basically researched by the government for military purposes. For example, America had fantastic road system then because they wanted to make sure that if they were invaded, they could have landing fields, they could travel, stuff like that. So in which case, konektado ito, when they had enough roads, they realized, why don't we build cars? So kumbaga meron silang connect yung kanila.
They had like a vision, I guess. A long-term vision.
Siguro, yes. But part of it is also, well, the people in general had the vision for the nation na hindi sila mapapailalim sa hari, quote-unquote. That's why they don't want, sila may pagka-libertarian. Pero ang kanila, opportunista talaga sila.
Yeah.
Opportunista talaga sila. So, ang nangyari, katulad yan, so, yung kanilang ang tawag nito, they found out that certain things can be won through war.
Yeah.
For example, sasabihin natin, kunyari pakonti ng oil mo. Sabihin, saglit mukhang maraming oil dun sa kabila. Bakit sila nakikinabang? Hindi. Uy, biglang natin, girahin natin. Ginawa ng dahilan para mapasok. Siyempre, mga tao, sasabihin naman lang, yung mga napasok, siyempre, maaangal yun. Diba? Ang nangyayari nga sa atin naman, America is not the great enemy. It's not. Although some people will say that. Pero pag katulad nitong yung napag-usapan natin 2 weeks ago, sa totoo lang kasi, kung sandali, my wife, dali lang
Sure, no problem. What we will be asking Secretary Abella also next is along these lines, sir, is also interdependence. I would want you to explain to our fellow kababayans the importance of interdependence in terms of national economics.
Okay. I understand when you mean interdependence, you mean with other nations or within ourselves?
It goes for both talaga, sir. Within ourselves, with other nations, because I feel like this is one way where we can start our understanding of interdependence.
Okay. Interdependence is an outgrowth of dependent, tapos independent, tapos yung pangatlo, interdependence. Yung dependent, like for example, tayo, naging dependent tayo sa ating colonizers. We were dependent. And in fact, we find our identity there. Either we were dependent on Spain or dependent on America. But when we declared our independence from Spain, medyo naudlot. So, ginamit nila, later sinabi nila, we were granted independence. Parang, sige, libre na kayo ng Amerikano, pero parang tawag nito, hindi fully atin dahil parang binigay, Sana yung panalo na. Ang sana makasaysayang independence, yun sa Spain, yung 1898. But then anyway, sige na. So the fact na independent tayo, ibig sabihin, we can stand our own. But the reality tells you, hindi mo kaya. Not on your own. So ito na nga yung interdependence. Right now, we are actually living interdependently in one way. One example comes to mind. Wala tayong pera eh.
Yeah.
Pero by sending our people out, all this, well, there are siguro mga 4 million tayong OFs eh. 4 million in the US, huwag ka nagkalat na yung 6. Dependent tayo ngayon sa ating OFWs at dependent tayo sa economy ng ibang bansa para magpera tayo. Kaya actually hindi natin masyadong nararamdaman na unproductive yung ating bayan. Kasi Pia, that's at least 12 billion US dollars a year.
A year, yeah.
Times 57 o times 50 na lang. You do the, ang laking pera actually pumapasok. So in a sense, hindi talaga natin masyadong madama. Because we are, interdependent ang relationship natin. We send people out, we get the money back. Pero if we're going to, katulad niya, may economic slowdown. Baka humina din yan. Baka humina din yan. So we have to also develop our inner strength. Hindi ba kasi ganito? Kunyari, marami kang pera pumapasok. Hindi mo naman, you can buy a Rolex, you can buy an Hermes, you can buy a this, you can buy a that. But at a certain stage, kung puro labas ang pera, walang mangyayari. So kailangan i-reinvest natin sa loob. And to reinvest it here means to say that we will have to work with people here. We will have to work interdependently.
Yes. I love it. That's nationalist economics for you. Right there, sir. We have to discuss this more because we need the Filipino to understand this. We need each other. We can only do it together. Like what you always say, tayo to eh. Tayo na, it's our time. Diba, mga kababayan? Sir, I'm sure you agree, it's our time. Come on. I'm also getting older, so I'm talking to the next generation. I have my kids with me, right? It's, my time's going to be up soon. It's going to be your turn, right? So thank you again, Sec. Last words, because I just have 1 minute for you.
Okay. It's time to pass on the flame. We need to first protect the flame of love of country and love of Filipinos. Kasi bayan natin. Hindi bayan ko, bayan natin ito. So ang ano ko is I encourage the next generation to please be involved, to please receive the flame.
Yeah.
Because we're passing it on.
Yes.
And then also, in the meantime, na kung pwede yung mga nasa poder ngayon, bukas tayo sa pagbabago. Na kahit na mawalan tayo ng quote-unquote poder, para naman sa bayan natin. So, una-una, I suggest that we shift na siguro to parliamentary.
Yeah, good job, sir. I am with you there. Thank you so much again, sir, for being on our show today. It's always a pleasure, and I really, really look to your wisdom. Till the next time, again, 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗂𝗂𝗂. Thank you.
Hasta la vista.
Hasta la vista.